Hi, my name's Jack. I'm a designer and video maker, and I used to work as an intern for the Walt Disney Company. My internship ran from July 2017 to July 2018. I worked as a production and operations intern, and most of my role revolved around creating web pages and promotions for various Disney Store products, Disney movies, and Disney events. In this video, I'm going to discuss what my previous experience was before I applied for Disney, the application process itself, a few different tips that I have that I think would help you if you're applying for Disney or a similar company, and finally I'm going to talk a bit about the actual experience I had working at Disney. So starting off with my previous experience, when I applied for the internship, I was about halfway through my second year of university. I was studying a Bachelor's of Science in Digital Media Technologies. I think my forecasted grade at the time of applying was a 2-1. If you don't study in a country that uses the same grading system, that means I was roughly getting kind of 60 to 70% on most of my coursework. That wasn't amazing by any means, which I think makes the point that a lot of these companies aren't just looking for your academic results. Previous to my studies, I already had a lot of experience in web design. I worked freelance making WordPress websites for different local businesses in my area while I was at school. I also had been making YouTube videos since about 2010. I stopped making them in 2015. Obviously, I've now picked it up again. I started making YouTube videos again last summer in 2020. But at the time of me applying for Disney, it had been about 3 years since I'd made videos. However, I had built up a channel with more than 3,000 subscribers, worked with a few different brands such as Vodafone in the UK, and demonstrated the fact that I was quite confident talking in front of camera as well as video editing. In terms of work, the only employment I'd actually had at that point was a paper round at about the age of 13. So moving on to the application process, I know for different departments and different roles at Disney, they have completely different application processes. I even know for years after my specific year, they did change the application process quite a bit. So I can only talk about my specific experience. So if you do apply for a job at Disney, or if you apply for a job at another company, don't assume that it's going to be exactly the same process as mine. So after filling out the application online, which involved a few different questions, a covering letter, and also submitting my CV, I then was invited for a phone interview. This phone interview was a pretty casual discussion. It was just more to get to know me a bit, to verify some of the information that was on my CV, and just get a better feel to see if I suited the specific role. Something that was quite interesting was that the role that I eventually got wasn't the one I applied for. I actually applied for a more creative design role. However, at that point, a lot of my experience wasn't design focused. It was more like web development focused, which is why they ended up offering me the production and operations role instead of a design role. So once I'd done the phone interview, that's when they actually got in contact with me and offered to do an interview for this other role, not the one that I applied for. This was absolutely fine with me. I was kind of happy with any sort of internship, especially at a company like Disney. So I accepted the in-person interview. A big part of this interview was actually a presentation. I'll just check on my laptop to see if I can actually find what the topic was. So I've managed to find the presentation that I made. You can see the formatting's gone a bit strange. I'll see if I can kind of show it on screen in a better way than it's showing on my laptop. But the two kind of points of the presentation I had to make, or the questions that I had to answer, were explain the key factors that encourage millennial users to transact via an e-commerce retailer, and what challenges do you think Disney faces when trying to drive sales through its owned digital platforms? So as you can imagine, when I was 19, those topics were slightly daunting. However, I think that's kind of the point to why they set you this challenge, just to see how you react to these questions, what your approach is for researching, creating the presentation, and then actually presenting it to them during the interview. I remember putting a lot of time into research and also the design of the presentation. Just because I hadn't been offered the design internship role that I'd originally wanted, I didn't want them to think that that just kind of wasn't my aim. I still wanted to show that I was extremely into design and creative thinking. So I put quite a lot of effort into the look of the presentation. Then on the interview day, when I actually presented, I remember completely fluffing what I wanted to say. I remember getting a really dry throat and asking if I could pause for a minute just to have some water. I think being nervous and actually struggling through the presentation actually helped in some way, because it just showed how much I cared and how much I wanted that role. But other than that, the presentation went well, the interview went well, and I think a few weeks later I got a call and found out that I'd been offered the position. So overall the application process wasn't really like special or different to what you could expect at another company. So what was the actual experience of being an intern at Disney like? It was an amazing year, I can't lie. The fact that I got to work on huge franchises such as the Avengers, Black Panther, Pixar films, the Disney Store, Disneyland, that was just amazing because it was really exciting being part of those projects. But also to this day, I still reference working on these projects in my portfolio, on my CV, and in any job interviews that I have. Throughout the year, there were so many cool opportunities, whether it was screenings for new films, we got to go to Disneyland, we got free tickets, which was pretty cool. We received lots of free merchandise, and just being in the office was a really fun place to be. They had lots of different events. Disney characters came in which you could take photos of. I'll show you some of those on the screen. But then for me it was also special because it was the first time I ever had a full-time role. It was my first kind of experience of a 9-to-5 office life, and along with that it was also the first time I was paid a full-time salary, which obviously you can't really complain about. I also think that year, bearing in mind that I was only 19 years old when I started the role, really set me up to have a great work ethic, which I kind of pride myself on now. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, in my studies I was only on track for a 2-1. Once I completed my internship, I went into my final year and managed to get a first, meaning that I got above 70%. I definitely credit that a lot to taking that year out working and just becoming more disciplined with how I manage my time and forcing myself to do work. I also think this has helped a lot to where I am now, which is working full-time and also studying a master's part-time, something I don't think I could have ever managed to do before doing this internship. But yeah, overall the experience was awesome. I made amazing friends, I had really fun experiences, and it's definitely a big thing on my CV and in my portfolio to this day. Some takeaway points and kind of pieces of advice that I want to give at the end of this video. One is just don't give up applying for internships. I know people who managed to secure internships once they'd already kind of started their new academic year. I think universities and other students kind of give the impression that if you haven't managed to secure an internship by Christmas time or in the start of the new year, then you've kind of missed all the good opportunities. That definitely isn't the truth. People will also drop out of internships, which creates new opportunities for you. Second would be show off what makes you different. I think the fact that I'd made YouTube videos and also made my own WordPress sites for small businesses was the main reason that I managed to get an internship at Disney. It definitely wasn't my kind of academic ability or how I was doing at university, but because I was probably one of the few people who was applying who did those different things, that made me stand out from the other options they had. And finally, my last piece of advice would be don't be intimidated by these bigger brands. Just because it's Disney or Apple or Amazon or Microsoft or whoever, it doesn't mean you're kind of too small of a person or haven't got enough experience or you're not smart enough to work there. Definitely apply for all these amazing opportunities. Just show off why you're different, show off why you should get that role, and I'm sure you'll stand in a great place to get it. So that's just about it for this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then please do click the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I make lots of technology, lifestyle, design videos, so if you think that sounds cool, please do hit that subscribe button. Comment down below if you have any more questions about my specific internship at Disney experience, whether that's more information about the application process or the experience while I was actually working there. Follow me on social media at JackJenkinsYT, and apart from that, hopefully I'll see you in the next one.